Bill Barr now facing calls to resign. The Attorney General under fire from Democrats saying he deceived and purposely misled Congress to shield President Trump. Much of this centering around a moment at a hearing last month when Congressman Charlie Crist confronted Bill Barr.
Reports have emerged recently, General, that members of the special counsel's team are frustrated at some level with the limited information included in your March 24th letter, that it does not adequately or accurately necessarily portray the report's findings. Do you know what they're referencing with that?
No, I don't.
I don't? For real? Well, Democrats are saying that answer looks more and more suspect after Mueller's letter to Barr has emerged, saying Barr's 4-page summary did not fully capture the special counsel's work and conclusions. Here's Barr under fire on that very exchange with Crist today.
I cannot imagine that you received that letter on March 24th and could not answer Congressman Crist directly when he asked you whether there were concerns about representations being made on these findings.
My understanding was his concern was not the accuracy of the statement of the findings in my letter, but that he wanted more out there to provide additional context.
Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Charlie Crist. Congressman, your reaction to Barr's answer on your question from last month, when it sure seemed like he didn't know anything back then.
It's remarkable. It really is, Stephanie. And, you know, when you take into account that when I asked those questions back on April 9th, the Attorney General knew that he had received a letter from Bob Mueller. I didn't. I was really innocently asking a question based on some news accounts that had reflected the fact that Mueller's team had been frustrated or concerned about the summary that had been put out by the Attorney General in his 4-page letter. And so when I asked him if he had any insight or any idea about what they were reflecting upon, and he said, no, I don't, it's just not the truth. You know, he had this letter. Bob Mueller sent it to him. He received it on March 28th, I believe. And, you know, the fact that he would say that to us and then sort of double down on it, if you will, the very next day to the Senate Appropriations Committee for Senator Van Hollen of Maryland. It's just incomprehensible that the Attorney General of the United States of America would misrepresent himself so much before the United States Congress. And in essence, what he's doing is he's lying to the American people. That's beyond disappointing. It's unconscionable.
It's beyond disappointing, but if he lied to Congress and the American people and there are no tangible consequences, isn't the biggest risk that here we are in 2019 and it's a big so what?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not a big so what to most people who watched it and witnessed it. I'm sure it's not a big so what to you. It's a concern to all of us. And what it does is it erodes the confidence in the Office of the Attorney General and the Justice Department to have the chief legal officer of the United States of America being untruthful to Congress. Listen, I used to be an attorney general for the state of Florida, the 3rd largest state in the country, and I understood the role, and I think you're held to a higher standard when you're the chief legal officer of the state or the country, at least. And it seems to me that Mr. Barr doesn't appreciate or understand that. The people expect honesty, trustworthiness, transparency, particularly when it comes to the highest legal office in the land. And he just failed on all 3 fronts.
Well, I'm not sure he was speaking or performing or answering for the people. He seemed to be doing it for an audience of one, President Trump. And I'm guessing that President Trump was happy with Barr's performance today. Do you believe he should resign?
I do believe he should resign. I mean, as I said, you know, acting as you have put it, and I would agree with you, and Senator Booker said before, he doesn't seem to understand the distinction of the role he has, which is amazing because he was the Attorney General before. But he's acting as though he's the personal attorney for the president. The Attorney General is the attorney for all the people of our country. And that's why he should resign. He doesn't understand the role and he's not acting appropriately.
But he is not naive. He knows exactly how to do the job. So we need to wonder, why isn't he doing it? Congressman, please stay with me. I want to get another moment. I want to get to that moment that you just referenced from a hearing back in April.
Did Bob Mueller support your conclusion?
I don't know whether Bob Mueller supported my conclusions.
He did know because he had Mueller's letter. He had spoken to him on the phone. Joining me now, former federal prosecutor John Flannery. John, what on earth do you make of that moment? Bill Barr has had a long, esteemed career. He's had this exact job before.
Well, I think the mistake is assuming the essence of the man was so good and then trying to squeeze everything he's done that's bad into a foregone conclusion that he's a good man. I don't believe he is a good man, and there are things in his history that suggest that. His performance today was a shame and a disgrace, and I couldn't say I believe more strongly in what Congressman Crist said, that he's failing the country. He's supposed to be the top law enforcement officer. And it's very interesting in that quote that you had from the Crist interview. He says, no, I don't know. But then right after that, he says, I suspect that they probably wanted more put out. But in my view, I was not putting out summaries or trying to summarize. He says that despite the fact that what started this was his March 24th letter, which on the second page he says, below, I summarize the principal conclusions set out in the special counsel's report. And too many people have overlooked, as far as I can tell today, other content in Mueller's letter. Mueller said we had a meeting on March the 5th in the third full paragraph. He also said they met on the afternoon of the 24th, the Sunday that that letter came out. What was that conversation about? And he said that they discussed the introductions and executive summaries of our 2-volume report that they wanted Mr. Barr to put out. But he didn't put them out because it didn't serve their purpose. His purpose was the deal he had with Trump, which was to protect him and to wipe away the entire investigation. And the rest of that interview by Mr. Crist, or I should say hearing, if you look at it, there's a whole series of things that are said, like he doesn't know what exoneration means. This esteemed lawyer, thought so highly by so many, doesn't know what exoneration means. And he misstates the whole purpose of the report, which is Mueller didn't believe he could say whether or not he committed a crime. He said that because of the OLC, Office of Legal Counsel memo. So what could he do? And he didn't want to say that even if we can't prosecute him, he committed a crime. So he handed it to Congress without predetermining how they should handle it, but obviously he said he couldn't exonerate him. So his suggestion was, this is worth your consideration. These 10 instances that I'm telling you are obstruction of justice. Kids on the street know that this president is a shame and disgrace like his attorney general, and resignation, impeachment, or prosecution doesn't seem out of the balance, out of consideration, given his conduct today and before this.
10 instances, one of which was the president asking Corey Lewandowski, a private citizen, to take action and fire the attorney general. Just get your head around that. Congressman, Judge Napolitano on Fox News said today that he didn't think Bill Barr lied to Congress. He just misled Congress. Help me understand what the difference is between the two. I mean, that is almost a response that my 12-year-old son gives me, and no matter whether it's lying or misleading, he still gets in trouble.
It's a distinction without a difference, Stephanie. They're the same thing. I mean, misleading, being untruthful, lying, you know, whatever you want to call it, it's not being honest. It's not being transparent. It's not being appropriate with the American people. And when you're before Congress, it's not so important how they, you know, comport themselves to us and my colleagues. Through us, their representatives, if you will, or their senators, they're communicating with the American people. We're asking questions on behalf of the American people to get to the truth of what happened here. And so when I asked the question, you know, did you realize why there may have been concerns from Mueller's team? You know, and then he sort of partially answered saying, you know, I thought he was asking, meaning me, about the team members of Mueller's investigation. Well, if Bob Mueller isn't a part of that team, my God, he's the quarterback of that team. And so for him to try to distance himself from it in that way and take it out of that kind of context, that was shocking and disturbing and condescending, frankly.
Misleading.
I think he understood. I think he understood your question, because guilt spills itself for fear of being spilt, said one of Shakespeare's characters. And he tells, oh, I think they wanted their summaries, which is precisely what's in that letter from Mueller. So he knew exactly what you were talking about.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.